Hello and thank you for taking the time to watch our short video on the EU Deforestation Regulation. In this video, we will start with an overview and timeline of the EUDR, followed by the EUDR commodities included in the legislation and how SCS can support your company to ensure compliance with the EUDR regulation. Let's start with a short overview of the EUDR. The EUDR refers to the EU Deforestation-Free Products Regulation. This regulation is a high-level and strong legislative instrument from the European Union. What makes it a strong instrument is that when it is implemented, all countries in the European Union have to comply with it, even if it differs from their national or local legislations. The regulation covers 7 commodities, which are soy, cattle, palm oil, wood, cocoa, coffee, rubber, and certain products derived from these commodities. There are about 200 of these derived products. 70 of them are listed in the regulation itself, and the rest are covered in subcategories. The requirements of the EUDR are the following. 1. The products have to be deforestation-free, and they have to be legally produced based on the country of origin. 2. There must be geographical coordinates collected of each production plot. 3. Operators and traders in Europe are required to conduct due diligence, sometimes including risk mitigation, and submit the due diligence statement for each shipment via the EU Due Diligence Statement Information System. 4th, operators must have in place adequate policies, controls, and procedures to mitigate and manage effectively the risks of non-compliance of relevant products. This includes risk management practices, reporting, internal control, and record-keeping. 5. In addition, large operators must have an appointed compliance officer and an independent audit function to check the internal policies, controls, and procedures. The regulation applies to operators, also known as producers, and traders in Europe. And for all these operators and traders, the compliance deadline is December 30th, 2025. For micro and small enterprises established before December 31st, 2020, a different compliance deadline applies of June 30th, 2026. These are the confirmed dates after the one-year postponement of the regulation was formally adopted at the end of 2024. The objectives of the EU Deforestation-Free Regulation align with SCS's corporate strategy and vision as outlined in this table. For example, it is SCS's mission to provide services that recognize and reinforce companies, institutions, and organizations in their efforts to meet the highest levels of performance in environmental protection, social and ethical responsibility, product safety, and quality. This is very much in line with the EUDR, as the regulation aims to avoid the global contribution to deforestation and forest degradation from the production of 7 commodity groups used in Europe and across the world. The regulation also aims to reduce carbon emissions caused by EU consumption and production of the relevant commodities. It addresses deforestation and forest degradation driven by agricultural expansion to produce the EUDR commodities, thereby contributing to the protection of biodiversity. SCS is also a pioneer in driving innovation and sustainability objectives in economic sectors that are underserved through the development of new standards and initiatives. SCS EUDR verification and consulting services are a perfect example of our pioneering mindset. SCS developed these as a new service in response to the implementation of the EUDR, providing expanded services for both existing SCS clients and potential new SCS clients, and complementing certification schemes, including both the schemes that offer EUDR solutions and those that do not. Here are the 7 key commodities covered under the EUDR visualized again, in different stages of processing: soy, cattle, palm oil, wood, cocoa, coffee, and rubber. SCS has consulting, certification, and verification programs for all of these commodities except cattle. These tables show how SCS offers certification services for the EUDR key commodities throughout different programs. In other words, there are many programs at SCS that are affected by the EU Deforestation Regulation. This table indicates that clients in these SCS programs will have to comply with EUDR if they or a supply chain actor downstream from them imports the commodity into the EU. Some certification schemes, such as FSC and Rainforest Alliance, have developed their own solution to help their certificate holders demonstrate compliance to the competent authority in the EU. These solutions range from complete certificate add-on modules to demonstrate EUDR compliance for the certified products, to a benchmarking of the scheme standard against the EUDR to indicate the gaps that clients must fill in order to be able to demonstrate EUDR compliance for their certified products. In all cases, the add-ons and benchmarking are only relevant for the client's certified product lines, especially in the case of large operators that need to have an independent audit. If the client has non-certified product lines made of these commodities, they may need another solution to help them demonstrate compliance to EUDR for all their products. For example, if a company has 10 wood door lines they import to the EU, but only 2 door lines are FSC certified, the company will need another solution to help them meet the EUDR requirements for the other 8 door lines that are not FSC certified. In this case, the SCS EUDR Verification Service is a great alternative option. In addition, not all certification schemes have developed an EUDR solution. So for clients who are certified to a scheme without an EUDR add-on or similar, the SCS EUDR Verification Service provides an alternative means for achieving compliance with the regulation. What this slide illustrates is the complexity of the EUDR as it relates to the many industry certification schemes and commodity types impacted. Here are several relevant certification schemes and how they interact with EUDR. It is important to note a few things about these related schemes. First, on the left side of this slide, we see the programs that offer add-ons. This is a substantially smaller pool than the list of schemes that do not offer an add-on seen on the right. Second, the EU explicitly does not recognize any existing certification scheme as a green lane for compliance with the EUDR requirements. Third, these scheme add-ons only explicitly cover the certified material, even if the scheme risk management system is applied across the entire range of activities by the company implementing the system. Therefore, while these add-ons are an important part of the scheme offerings where they exist, they do not provide the whole solution for most clients. Our services were developed to complement the add-ons provided by those programs. Both the add-ons and the SCS EUDR solution are similar in that they can serve as a tool to help users prepare for compliance with EUDR and be ready to deliver the relevant information to the EU competent authorities. However, our SCS offering is more widely applicable to cover all activities at the operator or trader, regardless of the status of certification. In addition, we offer third-party verification and an independent audit, which is required for large operators. Finally, our services are available to support many more companies than just those with these industry scheme certifications. EUDR verification is unique at SCS because it has such an umbrella function and touches upon other programs supporting the EUDR target commodities. In the following slides, we'll look more closely at what the actual SCS offerings are so you can make informed EUDR-focused decisions for your company and your products. This is an overview of the 4 options that SCS has developed to help companies meet the complex EUDR requirements by the deadline of December 31st, 2025. The first service is a suite of EUDR-focused advisory services available through SCS Consulting Services, Europe. Additionally, SCS Global Services offers compliance and due diligence integrity assessments and a comprehensive EUDR self-paced training to educate corporate leaders on the regulation. All of these services are discussed in more detail in the following slides. The SCS EUDR self-paced training was developed for people in the industries of EUDR-impacted products who have little to no understanding of what the EUDR is and how it affects them. The course dives into the legislation and helps learners gain a better understanding of the regulation and its requirements as they prepare for EUDR compliance. The course is available for purchase, and more information can be found through the link below the slide. This course is a great starting point for anyone who is just starting to develop their own EUDR compliance system but is not ready for either consulting or verification services. SCS Consulting offers clients a set of options that will be tailor-made, assessing each case according to the needs of the company or the group of companies to support them in achieving EUDR compliance. For example, depending on the client's activities in sourcing or trading with EUDR commodities, SCS Consulting can offer training to provide a basic understanding of EUDR requirements. They can also offer gap and deforestation risk assessments, needs assessment, and strategy development to help companies develop their action plan and their strategy to implement EUDR requirements. SCS Consulting can also develop customized verification checklists that can be used to check or verify a company's EUDR compliance and provide recommendations for improvement. And they can provide due diligence system development and review. This is only a short list of options. What is important to highlight here is the fact that consulting fits very well for companies that are starting to understand the regulation but are not sure how to take action or where to start. If you are not sure how to develop your own EUDR compliance system, SCS Consulting is a great place to begin. The compliance assessment is conducted by an SCS EUDR verifier, and this service primarily targets operations outside the EU. For this service, the EUDR verifier checks the EUDR compliance of various actors in the supply chain against an SCS EUDR compliance checklist. This includes verifying data collection systems, geo-coordinates or GPS data, adherence to local applicable laws, and traceability systems. The verification can be done on-site or remotely and usually focuses on 1 to 2 commodities. The deliverables of this service are a report against the compliance assessment checklist, identifying any gaps in EUDR compliance, and a verification statement upon successful completion of verification and resolution of any identified non-compliances. The due diligence integrity assessment is primarily used to support operators, producers, or traders in the EU who first place the commodity or derived product on the market. The commodity can be placed on the market either by importing it or by harvesting and selling it within the EU, for example, harvested timber sold to another EU country. It also caters to those preparing for audits by EU competent authorities or governmental bodies that enforce the regulation. The DDIA follows the same logic as the compliance assessment, where a checklist is used by an SCS verifier to verify if the company's procedures related to data collection, risk assessment, and due diligence statements are properly implemented and to identify potential gaps and necessary measures to be implemented. The DDIA is performed mostly remotely, although on-site visits are not excluded, and targets companies working with a broad range of commodities. The deliverables of this service are an assessment report detailing the integrity of the due diligence process, the risk assessment, and the risk mitigation measures, as well as a verification statement upon successful completion of verification and resolution of any identified non-compliances. Thank you for watching our EUDR services overview. If you would like to speak to an EUDR representative from SCS, please email EUDR sales@scsglobalservices.com.